Hey, Cookies here. This is part 2 of the Healing, Heroic, and Normal Nyalotha series, and this will cover the remainder of the bosses up until N'Zoth himself, which we will cover in part 3. So, starting off, we're going to start off with Shadhar, the Insatiable, and this fight was actually incredibly undertuned, it seemed like, in Heroic, but basically, for the first portion of the fight, there's going to be very little damage except tank damage coming out. The only time I could tell that people were actually taking damage is, unfortunately, my boss timers weren't working, so we're just gonna have to go off visual cues here. But the two main abilities you'll want to be looking out for timer-wise is going to be Umbral Mantle and then Slurry Outburst and Entropic Buildup. Those are all the things that are going to require a decent amount of healing. Umbral Mantle being one of the heaviest. And then for visual cues, when these swirlies go out, the raid's going to take a tiny little burst of damage. Even if they don't actually get hit by the swirly, they're still going to take a tiny bit of damage. Just when they first come out, it's not when they actually land. And then other than this, when you get later into the fight, let me just fast forward a decent amount. I think it's right about here is where the boss is going to be doing these breaths. You can see this dodge incoming WeakAura, but there's no way to actually dodge it. You just need to have the raid spread out, and then he's going to just turn around and hit a decent chunk of the raid with this breath attack. So you just need to be ready for that. So it's basically just keep the group topped off, and then really it's just watching tank healing. And honestly, this is a big DPS check boss for so. Like I said, in Heroic, it's very, very undertuned, but here you can see, again, the dodge WeakAura. So when he's done with his combo, he's going to turn around and just, breath the raid. And we just heal up all the players that got hit. Because it is unavoidable. And then also we have, this big ticking damage here. I believe that's this WeakAura that's popping up. It's saying there's a big dot. Yeah, it's this dot that's being applied to everyone. And I believe that's the Slurry Outburst, if I'm not mistaken. But again, I don't have timers enabled, so it's hard to tell. But that was pretty much the whole fight. Other than this, the last phase is just kite the boss and kill him before he kills you, and you're dodging these bubbling breaths. But the raid's just going to take constant ticking damage for the remainder of the fight, so... It's just a lot of ticking damage, and then just keeping players topped off for if they get hit by a breath, or if they get hit by the unavoidable breaths, for sure. And then the next one we're going to be covering is Dressed Agath. This fight was actually really cool. I like this fight a lot. The main sources of damage are going to be Throes of Agony, which the boss and also the larger tentacles that you'll see here in a little bit will be casting. It's these tentacles of Dressed Agath. So that's called Throes of Agony. And then we also have Entropic Crash, which is another cast by, I believe, just the boss. So you can see here, let's see where they cast it. They're gonna cast it at all? Oh, maybe it is. Okay, so yeah, this is Entropic Crash. This is the one that the tentacles do, my bad. So this is basically just the tentacles and Dressed Agath himself will cast this, and it's just reduced by distance. So you just get away, and then the raid will take a nice chunk of damage, so that's where you want to be using major cooldowns. And then also just have a lot of healing prepped if you're something like Arrested Druid, Dispriest, stuff like that. And then this is Throes of Agony, so the boss will just start casting. You can see he has a cast bar right here, Throes of Agony, and it's just a 9-second channel that's just going to do constant damage to the raid every second. For 9 seconds. And that's supposed to be the more deadly ability, but I think it's because it can overlap with other things in the fight, and this fight was incredibly fucking long. But it took a while. But yeah, those are the two abilities you want to watch out for. And then you will also need, I guess this is worth noting as a healer, is there is the tentacles of Dressed Agath. They're going to have a smoke screen effect around them, or a smoke bomb effect around them. I would recommend splitting your healers to go, depending on how many melee DPS you have, to assign 1 or 2 healers to go in there in the smoke bomb with the melee DPS, because the melee DPS will be focusing the tentacles while the ranged DPS are focusing the eyes and the maws. So make sure you assign 1 or 2 healers to go inside the the smoke bomb with the melee DPS to help them out, because they will definitely need the healing. And then that's all we'll cover for Dress to Gath. The rest is pretty much just dodge stuff, stay alive, kill tentacles. But those are the two major mechanics you want to watch out for healing. And then we have Il'gynoth, which this fight was super good too. I love the back half of this raid so far, it's really nice. And this is going to be when the blood ads die, and I'll show you guys what the blood ads look like in a second. And then also you're going to have a debuff that people are getting during this intermission phase, which is going to be not the mind control. All these circles that are spawning around people, it has like a long cast time, and then when it detonates, everyone inside the circle, hopefully only one person, will take a little burst of damage. So you'll just want to be keeping everyone topped off so that in between time the whole group's getting topped off, and then everyone gets the circles, we spread out. And then this is usually where I'm timing wild growth. You'll see is like I start channeling wild growth, and then they pop, and then now wild growth healing. But I should have done it a little bit later, so it would have smart healed to the people that were actually taking damage. And then you can see here, I'll fast forward a little bit because there's more blood ads later on in the fight. Like here, there's a crazy amount of blood ads. So you can see these Bloods of Nyalotha. Every time they die, the raid's going to take like a heavy amount of damage. So you're going to be wanting to line up cooldowns for every time like multiple ads are dying at the same time or anything like that. You'll just want to be like chaining cooldowns into it. And here you can see I'm fixated by an ad. You can't really do anything about it. You just try to keep it as best you can in melee. I'm just trying to dodge stuff here. And then that's pretty much it. So when the blood ads die is what you really want to watch out for. And then you have these circles that spawn, and these spawn during the intermission when you're killing the organs. So those are the two major things to look out for. And again, that's called the Blood of Nyalotha ads when they die. And then you have the Cursed Blood effect. Alrighty, so last up we have the Carapace of N'Zoth, and this fight was like an 11-minute fight for us, so big spooky. The things you'll want to be healing on this boss is going to be, let's see here, during phase 1, it's really just when people get the maddening bombs, I think they're called, and they have to run them out of the group, just keep them topped off so that they don't like randomly die to it. And then during this intermission, there's just going to be a lot of people taking like random damage from little ads that are spawning and stuff that the tanks aren't able to pick up or anything like that. They just need to watch out for that. And these are the madness bombs going out. You can see the players moving out of the group, and then they get these little circles around them. But the first phase, you should really be helping like DPS the ads and do stuff like that. And then this is where you'll want to really watch out for healing done, is when these Gaze of Madness spawns. They're going to do this channeled cast that you are not going to interrupt, or your group shouldn't be interrupting it, but it's going to deal like a pretty fucking heavy amount of damage to the people that are targeted with these like beams. So they need to use defensives, and also you should be using things like externals. Like for instance, I should have used Iron Bark there in that set. And you just need to keep those players topped off while the rest of the raid kills that tentacle. So that's phase 1, and then when we go into phase 2, you're going to do this like Gahoon styled kind of run through all these I don't know how to pronounce that, the cysts, and then as you're running through here, the group's just going to be taking like a pretty consistent amount of ticking damage, and it's going to get worse and worse as the group keeps progressing upwards until you're eventually at the end in this little room, and this is where you just want to keep the group topped off. And then you'll teleport back, and then you need to do it again on another ramp. And you can just see as we're going up, it's not too bad, but people start taking like a decent amount of ticking damage when we're up here. And then we pretty much go into the last phase. This is just dodge stuff and stay alive. There's nothing too crazy that happens during this. The boss does like a minor AoE damage whenever he's casting Eternal Darkness. So that's one of the things you want to watch out for. And then we have the last phase, which you run all the way out here. This fight's so cool. I love all the different like areas you utilize in this fight. So this is where healing like becomes pretty difficult, because basically what's going to be happening is every single player is going to get a Insanity Bomb now. So everyone needs to spread out. And then if you thought this wasn't enough, right after these explode, you're going to see these giant shadows spawning. And those players need to get out of those shadows, because if they get hit, they pretty much just get one shot. You can see a couple people there die instantly. So you basically just want to make sure people are like topped up for those Insanity Bombs, because you have to spread out quite a bit. And you can utilize like a large area of the room. You can even back up like really, really far onto these little like ramps or kind of hills at the edge of the encounter space to create more space for your group. And then there's also some overlaps that are going to happen where you get the Insanity Bomb, but the tentacles are already about to like hit down, so everyone needs to spread out within the safe zone of the tentacles, which is, it's a little, it can definitely get like a little bit crazy, so just keep an eye out for that. I think this is where, yeah, this is one where the shadows spawn, and then we're gonna get stunned, and the people, like, see this person who's running in there is just gonna die, because the Insanity Bomb is not gonna go off in time for the tentacle to hit down and them to dodge. But that's pretty much the whole fight, is just keeping people topped off for Insanity Bomb. And then in phase 1, we are healing people that are getting targeted by the tentacle that spawns, the Gaze of Madness right here. And then just kind of keeping the ticking damage from being too severe when we're running up these like Gahoon style ramps through all the cysts. And that's the fight. So that is part 2. The final boss that we'll be covering in part 3 is going to be Nyalotha. Unfortunately, I did not kill him this week. I got through like most of phase 1 and some of phase 2, but nothing past that, so we're going to wait to talk about that one until hopefully next week when I should be able to kill it pretty easily. And then we'll talk about that, and then we'll start diving into some mythic stuff next week as well, because I should be clearing quite a few bosses. So thanks for watching, and I hope it was enjoyable, and I hope you learned something. Good luck in the raid.